Yo, what's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at another one of the wardrobe weapons. This time we're taking a look at the Yarovit MG4. I am not quite sure if that's actually how you say it, so if you guys have any idea, let me know in the comments below. But that's how I'll probably say it for the rest of the video. This weapon's a brand new wardrobe weapon that was added with the final shape, and is a Stasis SMG. So today we're going to be taking a look at what are the perks that this thing can roll, what are some of the best ones, and the ones that you should be looking for if you're looking for a god roll. And we're also going to be talking about any perks or weapon combos that make it special. And we're also going to have a mini review at the end where we just kind of talk about the weapon. But let's get into it. First of all, how do we get this weapon? And that's the worst part about the weapon, or any wardrobe weapons that were added with the final shape, that there's not really any specific way to actually get them. There's a couple of different ways that you can do to increase your wardrobe weapons, and I'll actually leave a link in the description to a video where I go over all of those. But it's going to be really hard to look for this weapon. You're pretty much just going to have to get lucky. So actually getting a good roll of this weapon, it's probably going to be the hardest part when it comes to this weapon. Maybe a couple of you guys already have some, so make sure that you check your rolls if you threw some of them involved. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go look at those perks that this weapon can get. Once again, we're going to be starting with the barrels. I'm working our way to the trade perks. So let's get started. So first of all, starting off with the barrels. The barrel's not really going to matter for PvE. You go with something like arrowhead break. But if you're looking to use this in the crucible, you should definitely go for something like small bore for more range and stability. Although I'm going to be completely honest with you guys right now, this is not really a crucible weapon. Sure, it does have some crucible perks that you can like take in there and they'll do alright, but it's got mostly PvE perks. It's mostly going to be a PvE SMG. So again, you can take any barrel for PvE, and then for the crucible take some small bore. Now for the magazine, we have extended mag, alloy magazine, appended, armor piercing rounds, high caliber rounds, ricochet rounds, ferret mag roll, and light mag. For PvE, we're going to try to increase our magazine size. So either extended or appended is going to be the best bet. I usually go for appended because I just hate losing that reload speed. But if you don't mind slower reload speed, or you're going to use a loader mod, then go for extended. It will give you basically double of what appended gives you. Appended will give you 2 extra bullets, while extended will give you 4. So either of those are going to be pretty good. And for the crucible, you want to go for either ricochet or high cal rounds. Both of those work pretty well in the crucible. Now let's move on to the main meat and potatoes of the perks, the trade perks. For the first trade perk, we have air trigger, light in action, encore, rewind rounds, strategist, and lastly dynamic sway reduction. I think since this is a PvE weapon, let's start looking at some of those PvE perks. So the very first one that I want to talk about is going to be strategist. Whenever you get a kill, you get some class ability energy back. You get about 10% class ability energy every time you get a kill. This is going to be really good for whenever you have some builds that use your class ability a lot. And even if you don't have a build that includes your class ability, I think it's still going to be pretty good, since you're going to be able to spam the class ability a lot more often. So I think this one's a pretty solid perk. After that, we're going to have rewind rounds, and this is going to make it so when we have to reload the weapon as often, every time we reach the end of the magazine, it will refill it based on the number of hits. The most you can get is like 60%. But even if you missed a couple of your shots, you're still going to get like half the mag back with rewind rounds. So you'll be able to keep going without reloading for a little longer. This is going to be good, especially when with something like extended mag, where you have a slower reload speed. It's just going to make it so you don't really have to reload as often. And the last perk I want to take a look at for PvE is going to be in light in action. Dealing damage is going to improve our reload speed and our handling. I've been actually starting to like in light in action a lot more for PvE. Especially with weapons that can hit a lot of shots, things like SMGs like this one. You can really build up those stacks and basically get like maxed out reload, maxed out handling, and it just makes the weapon feel really good. So I actually think light in action can also be a pretty good perk on this weapon, especially again if you went with extended mag. But even if you didn't, more reload speed or faster reload speed is never really going to be a bad thing. And if you're looking to take this weapon into the crucible, the only real perk you're looking for is for dynamic sway reduction. It's going to improve your accuracy and your stability as you fire the weapon. It's pretty much like the best one here, Nothing else is gonna be as good as dynamic strike reduction. It's just gonna make the weapon more accurate. So now for perk 2, this is what we have. We have Surrounded, Desperate Measures, Send Moment, Headstone, Collective Action, and lastly Deconstruction. So once again, let's start away with the PE ones, and the first one we're taking a look at is Desperate Measures. So Desperate Measures is going to give us increased damage whenever we get a kill with a weapon, or we get a kill with our abilities. And in PvE, Desperate Measures is very easy to keep up, so we always are walking around with a 30% damage increase. If you're looking for a consistent damage buff to have on your SMG, then this is going to be your best bet. And it's just really good in PvE. You're just always going to have that 30% damage increase. Now, if you want an even higher damage buff, we have something like Surrounded. Now, Surrounded is not going to be as consistent as Desperate Measures. It's going to be a little bit more situational, because you will have to be surrounded by at least 3 enemies to get the benefit. But when it is active, it is going to be one of the highest damage increases in the game at 40%, so it is going to make the weapon feel very powerful. I can definitely see Surrounded being good in this SMG, mostly because you have to be a little closer to the enemies, so that means that you're more likely to be surrounded and for the perk to actually activate. So I actually like Surrounded on like SMGs and sidearms. I feel like you proc it a lot more often, but I would still say that it is definitely situational and definitely not as consistent as, let's say, something like Desperate Measures. And the last perk that I want to take a look at for this SMG, it's going to be the good old Headstone. It is a stasis SMG, so it can actually roll with Headstone, and this is the perk that you want to roll with if you want to run this SMG with stasis builds. Headstone is just a fantastic perk to go with the stasis builds, and even just by itself is going to be able to add a bit of extra ad clip whenever you blow up the crystal. So Headstone, I think, is going to be really good for PvE, especially though if you are running a stasis build with this SMG, which I actually think is probably the best way to actually run this SMG. Now for the Crucible, if you're planning on taking this into the Crucible, I would say Send Moment would make this weapon into a laser. If you get Dynamic Strike Reduction and Send Moment together, this thing is just going to be a laser, it's going to be so accurate, and it's going to feel really nice. You can also go for Desperate Measures if you're looking for a damage buff, although Desperate Measures, it is only going to be a 10% damage buff, so you're not really going to see too big of a benefit from that. But it does drop your TTK a little bit, just not a lot. So those are the best perks that I think that you can get on this weapon. So now let's talk about those god rolls. Now this is going to be the first god roll right here. We're going to go with Extended Mag, Enlightened Action, and Desperate Measures. Enlightened Action makes it so we always have that really nice reload speed, cancelling out Extended Mag. And also Desperate Measures is just always going to give us that constant damage buff. So this is going to make the weapon feel really good in any situation. Is just going to be a good feeling weapon that hits pretty hard. Now the second one that I got is Rewind Rounds plus Headstone. And Rewind Rounds, to be completely honest though, works with anything. You could go with Desperate Measures, you could go with Surrounded. This time I just paired it up with Headstone. And this one's going to be pretty much the one that you want to go for if you're using this on a stasis build. If you're using this on a stasis build, you're definitely going to need that Headstone. And lastly, the one for the Crucible, we have Ricochet Rounds, Dynamic Sway, and Send Moment. It's gonna make this weapon very stable, very accurate, but it still has the downsides of the weapon not having a lot of range, so it's gonna be a pretty close range submachine gun. But yeah, those are the god rolls that I think that you should go for. Let me know in the comments below what god roll are you gonna be looking for on this weapon, or maybe you already have. Let me know your god roll in the comments below. And now let's talk a little about this weapon. I feel like this is a pretty average SMG. It doesn't really have anything that makes it super special. It works well with stasis, but besides that, there's nothing really that makes it unique. It's just an okay 900 SMG, and that's pretty much it. And it's mostly gonna see probably play in PvE. I don't really see anyone taking this thing into Crucible. I thought about it, but I didn't end up getting any roles that actually ended up being good for Crucible. So I'm mostly just gonna stick to playing PvE with it, and let me say that I did pretty well. It was a nice feeling SMG, so there's not a problem with that, except that there's just a ton of SMGs out there, and there's just some really good ones out there that I just don't think this one's going to be able to keep up. So in conclusion, it's just a very average SMG in the world loot pool. I don't think that you're going to be missing any sleep if you delete the god roll this. So that's what I think about the SMG. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. And with that, we're going to end today's video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, dislike if you didn't, subscribe to our channel in case you guys haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care everyone, have a good rest of your day. Peace.